Okay, once again, good afternoon to all of y'all. Without further delay, we'll be inviting our next speaker, Professor Anisa Chorwadwala. Ma'am has done her BSc and MSc in mathematics from University of Mumbai and her PhD also from University of Mumbai in maths. Ma'am has cleared the joint CSIR UGC NET exam for lectureship. She has been a research associate at Quest India Private Limited, Mumbai, and also a visiting scientist at the Abdus Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics at Italy. Ma'am is an assistant professor at the Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, that is IISER Pune. Her interest lies in the research of calculus of variations and shape optimization problems. Ma'am has around 8 publications on her name and has a long list of teaching contribution at IISER and also at various places. She'll be speaking on the topic of why soap bubbles are almost spherical. Ma'am has been awarded by the DST SERB Matrix Research Grant for 3 years. She has been invited to give an interview at the NIS project of IISc Bangalore on women in STEM disciplines, which will be published soon. Ma'am is also an ambassador in the International Mathematical Union Committee for Women in Mathematics and also the member of Indian Women and Mathematics Executive. She has also been interested in the Board of Studies for Guru Nanak Khalsa College, that is at Matunga, Mumbai, and also at SIES College, that is South Indian Educational Society at Sion, Mumbai. We hand over the session to ma'am and let's see what interesting facts she has for us in the field of mathematics. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi, thanks for the invitation and the introduction too. So, hi kids, I hope all of you will find at least something interesting in the next 1 hour and 15 minutes that I am going to talk about some interesting geometric facts. So let us begin. I will start presenting my slides now. I will have to, you will have to make me a host, the organizers. Please make me the host so that host or co-host so that I can share my screen. Okay. So yeah, I will have to change my slides in between because later in this slide there is some problem. So later let me just try to make it a full screen. Do you know any shortcut for making it full screen? Command Shift L, right? Is this seen as a full screen on your window? This file? No, right?
Ma'am, it's visible but not full screen here.
Okay. Yeah. Enter full screen. Is this better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the title of my talk. Why are soap bubbles approximately spherical or almost spherical? The one and the same thing. So let's begin. So generally, what we observe around us is capable of. One second, I am not able to go to the next page. Why is that so? Yeah. So what we see around us, and we human beings have been curious and inquisitive all through their existence. So question of the following type they arise quite naturally, like why are small water droplets and bubbles that float in air are approximately spherical? Why does a herd of reindeer form a circle when they are attacked by wolves? right? Why does a cat fold her body to form almost a round shape on a cold night? Can we hear the shape of a drum? So by this I mean that if there is a drum playing, the dhol playing in the next room, then with by the sound of the dhol, can you guess what shape is the drum? I mean, in other words, any musical instrument playing there, does the sound give any information about the shape of the instrument? I mean, in vaguely speaking. And then questions like, of all the geometric figures having a certain property, which one has the greatest area or volume? Similar question is, among all the figures having a certain property, which has the least perimeter or surface area? And such problems have stimulated mathematical thought, and mathematicians have been trying to answer these questions via what are called as shape optimization problems, right? So it is in some sense optimizing a shape. Yeah. So what is the meaning of a shape optimization problem? So the typical problem is to find the shape which is optimal. So what do I mean by optimal? It's the best shape, but best doesn't make sense as it is. So best will make sense only if we understand what we mean by best, right? So optimal in the sense that it minimizes a cost functional while satisfying given constraints, right? So there are certain constraints that the particular object is supposed to satisfy. And once among all the objects which satisfy those properties, which one will have the minimal cost? So, for example, suppose you want to go to the market and buy a TV, right? A television. Then I mean, minimizing the cost functional. So I can also like try to do some initial research online. So I can maybe go to Chroma's website or Amazon or Flipkart or something, and I will just search for television, and I will just sort them in the ascending order of their price, and I will look for the minimal cheapest one. But when you look at the cheapest one, this is not the one I want. I mean, I realize that this is a very outdated one, outdated television, and I am not interested in that television, right? So then what I will have to do, I will have to do a smart search, an advanced search. So I will have to put some filter that I want a latest television 2021 model. Then I have some criterion on the screen size, the display screen size. I have some criterion whether it's a smart TV or not, or what is I mean, all the various HD TV. I mean, I don't know what these days there are so many new technology, etc. So I will have to put all those conditions there, and then I look for one, and then I sort them in the sequence of ascending order of price, and then I look for the cheapest one, perhaps. And I suppose I also have a preference on the brand, etc., etc. Then it makes sense. So it is like finding the cheapest one among those of interest, among those that give satisfy the constraints that you have in your mind, like that. So now, mathematically speaking, so this is the optimization problem, shape optimization problem. But how do we interpret this mathematically? So mathematically speaking, it is, in other words, I want to find a domain, because in mathematics world, we are not interested in television anymore. We are interested in sets and domains and geometric objects, etc. Right? So domain is a set satisfying certain properties. Okay. A set, we are looking for a set that minimizes a functional, like for the TV we had the cost, right? We had the price of the TV. Here we will have some cost functional which depends on the object, it depends on the set, and there is a constraint, and that constraint we will write it in the mathematical form, that some g of omega is 0. I mean, we will just write the whatever constraint we have mind, we will just give it a mathematical equality presentation. So that particular domain should satisfy g of omega is equal to 0. We are just interpreting things mathematically. Okay, so now, in other words, what are we trying to do? We want to minimize the cost functional where this omega is coming from a family of admissible domains. So there in the TVs, when I was buying a TV, I was minimizing the cost of the TV, but the TV was belonging to a family of TVs, right? There was a set of TVs which satisfied my conditions, like my expectations, the features. Like it was a smart TV, it had 55-inch size and HD, etc., etc., and Sony TV perhaps. So all these TVs which are satisfying the conditions that I have in my mind, they will be called admissible family of TVs. So I am minimizing the cost functional in the admissible family of televisions. Similarly, here I am minimizing the cost functional over a family of admissible sets. By domain here, I mean set with some additional conditions, but that's not important right now. Okay. So that is to find a star domain. I mean, from a classroom, if I want to choose a monitor, so and I have some conditions in my mind about the monitor should be disciplined, the monitor should be regular, punctual, he should be good in study, etc., etc. He should be maybe some condition on his or her height or something like or some locality. Maybe I prefer a monitor who lives nearby so that he is not absent more often, etc., etc. So then I choose a star student, right, from the family of admissible domains. So that shape the domain which minimizes the cost functional, I will just call it a star domain, omega star, which belongs to the family, belongs to the same family. That means it should satisfy all the conditions that I have in mind, such that the cost of affording that particular omega star should be minimum of all the cost, right? That TV should be the cheapest one among all the TVs that satisfy the conditions I have in my mind. Or the maintenance of the monitor should not be a very fussy person, he should not throw a lot of tantrums every now and then. So that is what we mean by the cost, or the whether we can afford that particular monitor. So that cost, whatever the way you interpret it, it should be minimum of all the cost among all the candidates satisfying the properties that we have in mind. This is what we mean by shape optimization problem. So we are optimizing, that means we are minimizing the cost, and we want the best shape which minimizes the cost that we have in mind. For example, another example in a mathematical world is suppose I have a piece of wood, some tree logs I have, and I want to make a chair. And the chair is supposed to be like a what is it called? Aram kursi. Aram kursi will be yeah. So I have some conditions on the chair, like it should be at least this much height. It should be able to accommodate a person weighing more than 80 kgs. It should be a rocking chair, etc., etc. So whatever conditions I have, I should put it in the family of admissible domains, and then there is some cost of making the chair like that. So I want to minimize the cost, at the same time I want to achieve the final objective that I have in my mind. So all those this is like two way. I want what goal I have in mind, that is part of this job optimization, and what are my constraints, like what are the, that means I want to minimize the cost. So I also have to look at my constraints, and I also have to have the goal that I want to achieve out of the raw material or out of the things that is available to me. Okay, so in many cases, the functional that I'm trying to minimize, it will depend on solution of some equation, some mathematical equation. And those of you who don't understand what is a differential equation, so sometimes the functional that I'm going to minimize, it depends on some mathematical equation, and that mathematical equation is defined on some sets. So the moment the set changes, the equation will change, and the solution of the equation will change. Okay, so there is some mathematical connection which we need not worry about right now. So let me go further. So now another very special kind of shape optimization is isoperimetric problem. Okay, and what is an isoperimetric problem? So a classical isoperimetric problem is to enclose a given area, capital A, with the shortest possible curve. So in other words, I give you a graph paper. Okay, I give you a graph paper, and I give you a, you understand what a graph paper is, like this paper with this green paper with lines, horizontal and vertical lines, which makes like square blocks, etc., on which you draw many things in your school, right? So that graph paper I give you a thread of a fixed length, right? And using this thread of a fixed length, I asked you to put this thread, this loop on the graph paper such that the area enclosed by the loop is maximum. So if you can see the board which is there behind me, I can just draw it for you. Okay, so I have this graph paper. Right, so graph paper is something like that. There are horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, and I am giving you a thread, a loop. You make a loop out of this thread and put that loop on this paper. And then we know that the area enclosed by this loop right now is, you just count the number of squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First you will count the full squares, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then you will count the squares which are smaller, right? So then 10 smaller, then 1 small, then 2 small, 3 small, etc. So you count the number of squares inside this, and that will give you the area of the loop. Now the moment you change the shape of the loop, with the same thread I can also make a square, right? Or with the same thread I can make a circle, or with the same thread I can make an ellipse, right? With the thread, you can change the shape of the thread, right, the way you want. So the moment I change the shape of the thread, the area enclosed by, so the perimeter of the thread is fixed because the length, I gave you the same length, right? The thread, once you make a loop, the perimeter is fixed, the length of the thread is fixed, but the area enclosed by the thread changes the moment the shape of the thread changes. Okay, you check this yourself. You take the loop of the same length and you put it on a graph paper. You count the number of squares on the graph paper that it encloses, right? Number of very tiny squares you count. Okay, and then you will then change the shape. Maybe first you make a square, then you make a rectangle, then you make an ellipse, then you make a triangle, then you make an amoeba like shape. So you try making any shape that you like and see that the area is changing the moment the shape is changing. Okay, even though the perimeter is fixed. Okay, so now the same question can be asked in a different way, to enclose a given area. So now I had fixed the perimeter, but I can fix the area. For example, I want to build a park outside my house. Okay, and I want to make a park of 100 square meter. I have constraint on the area of the park. Okay, but I want to make a park such that its perimeter is minimum. Okay, in other words, suppose making up the perimeter of the park will cost me some money, right? So the shorter the perimeter, it will cost me less money. So I want to make my job affordable. I don't want to spend too much money on building the park. So by one way of reducing the cost is by reducing the perimeter. But I don't want a park smaller than 100 square meter. I want a park of 100 square meter area. That is my capital A, the constraint on the area. But I want the perimeter to be minimum. Okay, so this is now my this is fixing the area and minimizing the perimeter. Okay, so here fixing the area meaning area is fixed. So iso area problem. But when the perimeter is fixed, the problem that I described on the board where the perimeter was fixed, because the length of the loop was fixed, thread was fixed, right? So the perimeter is fixed and I want to maximize the area. Suppose I want to find a shape of the loop such that the area enclosed by the loop has maximum area. Then that problem will be called isoperimetric problem, because that the perimeter is same. Iso means same, perimetric is perimeter. So isoperimetric is when the perimeter is same and you want to maximize the area. Is there any question? And iso area problem is the one where the area is fixed and you want to minimize the perimeter. Any question? Feel free to ask your questions if you have any. Okay. So now, let me see. So here, why is the isoperimetric problem a special example of a shape optimization problem? Because here we are trying to minimize the perimeter. right? That is our cost functional, which I am going to minimize. And what is the constraint? G omega equal to 0. G omega equal to 0, the constraint is the area of the set, area of the geometric object, or area enclosed by the thread, or area of the park. Suppose omega is the park, then area of the park minus 100 square meter should be 0, right? So that is my G omega equal to 0. That is area of the park has to be 100 square meter. This was my constraint, right? So my G omega equal to 0 can be written as area of the park minus 100 square meter is equal to 0. That is my condition. Now mathematical condition. I will have to switch to another, I will come to this, it is also there in the other one. So I will have to switch to another document. Let me see, where is that document? Sorry about this interruption. I don't know why I am not able to see that. Okay, maybe if I close the first file, I will be able to see the second file. Yes. So here it is. Yes. So I just updated the document from before. Right. So this is the isoperimetric problem that I was talking about. So the classical isoperimetric theorem says that. So sorry, I was in a hurry to go to the next slide. Hope you did not read it. So what I would want to ask you is, so I told you what is this graph paper, this thing, right? Problem which I just mentioned on the board. So what shape of the thread do you think will enclose? Suppose I have a thread of 1 meter long thread, maybe not 1 meter, much shorter. Say I have a thread whose length is like 10 centimeter. 10 centimeter is also too long. Say 3 centimeter long thread. I am making a loop out of it, and I am putting it on the graph paper, and I am making different shapes. I am making a triangle, maybe sometimes isosceles triangle, sometimes I am making a equilateral triangle, etc., etc., right? Maybe scalene triangle, or so you make any triangle, you make a square, or you make a rectangle. You do whatever shape you want to make. You make a rhombus. Now tell me which shape of the thread will have a maximum area. The length of the thread is fixed. The loop is fixed. You are putting it on a graph paper, 3 centimeter loop on the graph paper. You are making different shapes, and you are looking at the area enclosed by the loop. Now, which loop among this will have the maximum area? What is your guess? Anyone, any guess? Do you think which shape do you think will square have
Circle.
more? Circle. Any other answer? Do people agree with her or disagree with her? Yeah, there are some students writing in the chat. Let me see. So circle, 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 square. Any other answer other than circle and square? Circle, square. So the ones who said square and the ones who said circle, do you mind explaining me why you think it's a circle or why you think it's a square?
Ma'am, can I tell for square?
Yeah, please tell me why do you think it's a square?
Ma'am, because if we add circle, and ma'am, that's 1 meter circle can fit under a square, and rectangle also we can't take because it can increase the length and breadth, but square is equal in all sides and it can move the square.
A square is equal and it can move.
No, ma'am, it can't move, but it has equal sides, and also if we take rectangle, it occupies very small area, and circle also can fit
You
in.
have to keep in mind that your boundary, your loop is the same. Okay. So your perimeter is L. Your thread is of length L. For example, here I said 3 centimeter. Okay, or L. Your thread is of length L. So that means your perimeter is L. Okay, so your thread is of fixed length. Now using the same thread, if you make a square, and using the same thread, if you make a rectangle, which one will have higher? So when your length perimeter is L, what is the formula for perimeter of a square? It is
Side multiplied by side.
4 times A, right? Suppose A is your side, then it is 4 times A, right? That is the area of that is the perimeter of a square. 4 times the side length, right? So your L is the perimeter, and I am telling you that L is equal to 4 times A, right? So let me maybe stop sharing this and start sharing a whiteboard so that I can draw it and explain it to you. Okay, so now what I have, I have this 4 times A is my L, right? 4 times A is my L. So what will be your side length? That means your side length is L by 4, right? Your side length is now L by 4. And what is the area of a square? Area of a square will be
Side
A square, right? So A square is nothing but L square by 16. A square is nothing but L square by 16, right? So this is your A square, your area. So my area A is L square by 16. Okay, now suppose I had a rectangle. Then what happens in a rectangle? In a rectangle, my L will be nothing but A plus B, right? 2 times A plus 2 times B. If A is one side and B is the other side, then it is 2 times A plus B. This is my area of a rectangle, perimeter of a rectangle, right? 2 times A plus B. This is my perimeter of a rectangle. So my A is, so L by 2 is A plus B. So B is nothing but, L by 2 is A plus B. So B is nothing but L by 2 minus A, right? L by 2 minus A will be your B, right? And what is the area of a rectangle? Area of a rectangle will be A into B, right? So A into B will be A times L by 2 minus A. Right? This is my area. Sorry, this was supposed to be a bracket. Undo. Yeah. So A times L by 2 minus A. Sorry about the handwriting. I don't use the whiteboard so often. So now what is this area? So this is nothing but LA by 2. So, but L is nothing but 2 times A plus B. So now B is L by 2. So it is, can I write, so now what is my A? So A times L by 2 minus A, and it was A square, right? So which one is larger? So it is L square by 16 here, and it is LA. So I should try to write it in terms of L. My area, I should be able to write it in terms of L. So how do I write that in that case? It is A into B. So A into B, and so A now is L by 2A. LA by 2 minus A square. Okay, so which one of the two is you think will be larger, L square by 16 or A L by 2 minus A?
Ma'am, I think L square by 16 is larger.
Why do you think so?
And because I think that when L by 2, the length will be halved and it will be minus A only. So I think it will be smaller than A. But in the case of L square by 16, the L will be multiplied by itself and divided by 16. So I think that it would be greater.
Yeah, very good. So can anyone help me with how do I go to the next whiteboard? Maybe I clear this and go to next. Redo, undo, format, erase, spotlight, save.
Do you want to clean the whiteboard or do you want to like erase the whiteboard?
No, I want to go to a next clean whiteboard. So
From where you took the drawing tool, there will be an option like clear all or something.
yeah, clear I can see, but clear all. Okay, clear. I did not want to clear.
Yes.
I wanted to start afresh, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. See now, do you know this arithmetic mean and geometric mean inequality?
Ma'am, there
Yes.
is an option right.
There is an option to go to the next, but anyway, I deleted it. I erased it. Maybe next time you can help me. I did not see go to the next drawing, but it's okay. So do you know what is this arithmetic mean and geometric mean inequality? Anyone? Arithmetic mean, geometric mean inequality. So suppose you have two positive numbers, A plus B, A and B. Okay, suppose you have two numbers, A and B, non-negative numbers. Then by arithmetic mean, I mean that I am taking the average of the two, right? So that is my arithmetic mean. This is the average of the two numbers, A plus B by 2. But when I have, what is the geometric mean? By geometric mean, I mean square root of the product of A and B. Okay, I am taking the product A and B and I am taking its square root. Out of these two numbers, A plus B by 2 and A into B square root of that, which one do you think will have? So let me just draw it on the board. I hope all of you can see what I am writing on the board.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you?
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I am not able to see the board.
Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am, I can see.
Okay, good. If not, I can move it even closer. So hope you guys can see it. So now this A plus B by 2, A into B by square root of this. For example, my A is 5 and B is 3. Then what is the average of the two? 5 plus 3 by 2 is 4. So the average of 5 and 3 is 4. That is the arithmetic mean. But when A is 5 and B is 3, 5 3s are 15. That is square root of 15. What is square root of 15? Square root of 15 will be something between 3 and 4, right? Square root of 15 will be 3 point something. So which one is larger? Is 4 larger or 3? Square root of 15 is 4 4s are 16. 3 3s are 9. So it will be 3. 5 plus 3. So which one is larger?
Ma'am, 4. 5 plus 3 by 2 is larger.
Larger. Right? 5 plus 3 by 2 is larger than or equal to root 15. So the arithmetic mean is greater than or equal to the geometric mean. Right? Always. So now for when I have a rectangle, and what happens when A and B both are same? Suppose A and B is same. Then A plus B by 2 will be A. Right? And what will happen to this? Square root of A into A will also be A. So though for two different numbers, this is always strictly larger than this, right? For two different numbers, this will always, check this will always be strictly larger than this. But when A and B are exactly the same, the value on the left hand side and the value on the right hand side is exactly the same.
Equal.
Exactly, it's the same, right? So that is why when you have a rectangle, what do you have when you have a rectangle? Your A and B are different. When you have a rectangle, your A and B is different. And when you have a square, your A and B are the same. The two side lengths are the same. But for the rectangle, what is your perimeter? Your perimeter is 2 times A plus B, right? Your perimeter is 2 times A plus B. And so the perimeter square, your perimeter, so this is your perimeter for a rectangle. And what is the area of a rectangle? Area of the rectangle is A times B. Okay. But when you have a square, your perimeter is 4 times A and your area is A square. So suppose your now I am telling you that the perimeter of the square and the rectangle is the same, and I want to compare which area is larger. So for these two values are same, and I want to check whether this is greater than or equal to this or this is less than or equal to this. Which one is true? This is what I want to check. So now since 2A plus 2B is same as 4A, so my L is the same. So let me just put it instead of A, let me put it 2 times A plus B, and this is 4 times side length S. Let me put it S. Okay. So now 2 times A plus B is 4 times S. Okay. So let me just check. 2 times A plus B is 4 times S. This implies that A plus B by 2 is equal to S. A plus B by 2 is equal to S, right? This is what it means. So now S square, so this S square will be nothing but A plus B square by 4. Right, and here I have A into B. So here I have A into B and I have A plus B square by 4. So between the two, which one will be larger? A plus B square by 4 is larger or A into B is larger? Okay, so I want to check whether AB is larger or A plus B square by 4 is larger. Which one is larger? Or in other words, I want to check whether 4 times AB is larger or A plus B square is larger. Okay. So in other words, I want to check. So let me just take A plus B square minus 4AB. Let me just check this difference. So this is nothing but A square plus 2AB plus B square minus 4AB. Right? Which is the same as A square minus 2AB plus B square, right? Which is nothing but A minus B square. But it is a square of some number. So it will always be larger than or equal to 0. Square of any number will be larger than or equal to 0. That means this quantity is always larger than or equal to 0. That means this particular quantity has to be larger than or equal to this. A plus B square will have to be larger than or equal to 4 times AB. That means A plus B square by 4 has to be larger than or equal to AB. Right? And that means that this area which was S square is larger than or equal to area of the rectangle. So area of the square is larger than the area of the rectangle. Once you know that the perimeter is the same, area of the square will be larger than the area of the rectangle. Now this is something you will have to check by making a thread on a graph paper and check that suppose you have a thread of a fixed length, then you count the square, you make a square out of the thread, count the area, and you make a rectangle out of the thread and see the area. You will see that the square has larger. This is the correct inequality. Perimeter is the same, and I could prove that the square has more perimeter than the rectangle, and this was precisely because I found that the difference of these two numbers is larger than or equal to 0, because I could write the difference of two numbers as the square of one particular number. okay, and which is non-negative, which is greater than or equal to 0. So now square is better than rectangle, but is square better than circle? So somebody said square, but I agree that square is better than at least something. But is square better than circle having the same perimeter? Suppose you have a circle of perimeter 1 and suppose you have a square of perimeter 1, unit perimeter. Which one will be larger? Somebody said circle, somebody said square. And I proved that square is better than rectangle, but I still did not prove so far that square is better than circle. Maybe circle is better than square. I do not know as of now. Does any of you know whether square is better or a circle is better?
Ma'am,
Yes, Rehan, tell me.
ma'am, I think both will be equal because they have eventually the same perimeter.
So, okay, so you have a thread of 1 unit, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you have a square of 1 unit. That means using the same thread, you are making a square, and using the same thread, you are making a circle. Okay, now look at them as different things. So I have a square, I have a circle, both of them have the same perimeter. So suppose they have the same area also, right? That means on the graph paper, this square and this, can you put one on top of the other? If the perimeter is also the same and the area is also the same, so you remember the perimeter of a square. Let me just write it down, like I did it here. So we should look at the formula for the perimeter of the square. So perimeter of the square we know is 2 times. No, we have a square. So it is 4 times A, where A is the side length, right? So this is for the square. And perimeter of a circle is 2 pi r, right? So since the perimeter is the same, this is the same. L is equal to 4A and L is equal to 2 pi r. This is the length of the thread. Okay. Now what is area of the square? Area, suppose S is the square, then area of the square is A square. Right? And what is area of the circle? Suppose C is the circle with radius R, then area of the circle is
Pi r square.
right? Now 4A is equal to 2 pi R. So we know the relation between A and R, right? We know the relation between A and R. So what is A now? So this implies that A has to be pi R by 2. Right? A is nothing but pi by 2 times R. Is that correct? Yeah, that is correct. So A is pi by 2R. So what is A square? A square will be pi square by 4 times R square. So now between area of S and area of C, so which one is larger? Pi square by 4 R square. Whether this is larger or pi R square is larger. So R square is the same. So we need not compare R square. Forget about R square. Now which one is larger? Pi square by 4 is larger or pi is larger?
Ma'am, I think pi square by 4.
Pi square by 4. So in other words, the
Ma'am, I am not able to hear you.
I think there is some technical glitch. We'll just sort it out. Please wait. I guess there is some network issue at ma'am's end. We are just trying to connect to her. Thanks for the cooperation. Yeah, ma'am is here. Ma'am, I think you are on mute.
Hi, sorry. So, okay, so I was asking out of pi and 4, which one is larger?
Ma'am,
Yeah, tell me.
ma'am, 4 is larger.
4 is larger. Okay, so pi is smaller than 4. So that means pi square is smaller than 4 pi. That means pi square by 4 will be smaller than pi. That means pi square by 4 r square will be smaller than pi r square. So that means area of the square will be strictly smaller than area of the circle. Right? We just did the calculation. Is it surprising that the square having the same perimeter has less area than the circle having the same perimeter? So we proved that the circle is better than the square. Circle encloses more area than the square if the perimeter is fixed. Okay. Now, can you guess why the circle is enclosing more area than square? Etc. etc. Any intuition, any idea, any guesses? Or will a hexagon have more area than a square, having the same perimeter? So is circle now is definitely better than square, and square was better than rectangle. So circle is better than at least square and rectangle. But we can still think of like so many other shapes, right? Infinitely many shapes. But is the circle the best among all of them? Or it is better than just a few of them? If yes, then you have to give me some intuitive idea or some justification. If your answer is no.
Ma'am, can I?
Yeah,
Ma'am,
please,
can
please,
I?
Samruddhi, tell me.
The circle is a curve figure, but another shape had sides, means they are not curve figure. So
There
that's
were corners. Yeah, you are saying that there is a corner.
yes.
Okay, then what about ellipse? What about ellipse? You understand the shape ellipse? Which is like the egg shape ellipse.
Yes.
Like oval Maidan, you know, right? Oval shape. Now, will the square have better area, or an ellipse with the same perimeter will have better area, larger area?
Ma'am, I think ellipse will have less area.
Why do you think so?
Ma'am, because the sides is very long and they enclose very little square even if they have a same perimeter.
Yeah, so intuitively what you are saying is correct, but we need to check the formula, right? I proved we need a proof, mathematical proof. See, intuition is different. We can imagine something and we think that if you make it ellipse, something becomes narrow and something becomes wider. From the circle, if you make an ellipse, then in some direction you are stretching it, which is making it narrow in the some other direction, right? It is like a rubber band, like from the square you are from the circle you are making an ellipse shape. So somewhere so it is becoming narrow, somewhere it is becoming wider, and you feel that maybe that will compromise on the area might drop. But this is all intuition, it is all something that you imagine. It is like you think it will be like that. But when we talk about mathematics, we should be able to prove it, right? We should be
Circle
able.
will have the largest area of all the shapes.
Why do you think so? I mean, we have to justify it, no? We cannot just believe our intuition. See, you know that there are many figures where when you look at it, things look different, but the reality is different. For example, the railway tracks. It depends upon from which angle you look at the railway tracks. If you look at from one particular angle, all the wooden planks on the railway tracks, they might appear to be of same length. But if you look at it from a different angle, the wooden planks on the railway track, they might look like the one larger than the other, or etc etc. So it all depends on your perception. That's why there should be some universal way of measuring. That's why we have measuring tapes, and we measure each of the railway planks, and we come to the conclusion that they are of equal length, because we believe in the measuring tape, which is a uniform way of measuring things. So like the circle and the ellipse, I leave it to you to find the area of the ellipse, formula for the area of the ellipse, and formula for the perimeter of an ellipse. So let me just draw it for you. So the way we compare the circle and the square, so what is the parameter for ellipse? So this is an ellipse. So ellipse has this major axis. So this is the larger of the two. These are two perpendicular lengths. So this is this is the major axis, that is the axis which is larger in length, and this is the minor axis. So the length of the major axis, suppose, is A, and the length of the minor axis is B. Then in terms of the A and B, you can Google it and you can find the formula for the perimeter of an ellipse.
Ma'am, I found the
Yes.
Google and I found results.
Yeah, what is the formula for the perimeter of an ellipse?
Ma'am, the perimeter of ellipse is 2 pi square root A2 plus
Square.
B2 divided by 2.
A2 B2 divided by 2.
And ma'am, there is a 2 pi and a star and square root.
Square root of what?
A2 plus B2 by 2.
What is A2 and B2? I think A2 is the A and B2 is the B. I think so. So 2 pi root A plus B, you are saying, right?
Ma'am, I will just put it in the chat box.
Yeah. A2 B2 by 2. I think by A2 they mean the maybe
A square and B square.
maybe A square by B square. I don't know. We have to check. So whatever is the value, you can just put it here, and the area of the ellipse. What is the value of area of the ellipse?
Ma'am, its area or perimeter of the ellipse is 2 pi root R1 square plus R2 square. And R1 is major axis and R2 is minor axis.
And there is a 2 pi here.
Yeah, there A square upon 2. A square plus B square upon 2.
I see.
Ma'am, I put the area and perimeter both in the chat box of ellipse.
The answer is wait.
Okay, I can check whether this is correct or not. And area of the ellipse is pi times A square plus B square, right? By 2, maybe. Pi times A square plus B square by 2. Is this the perimeter?
Yes, ma'am. On Google, I found it. It is that only.
Okay, let me just check your chat box. So 2 pi A2 B2 by perimeter, pi times P into Q is the area. Pi times P into Q is saying. So pi times A into B is the area. And 2 pi times square root A square plus B square. Maybe there is some by 2 over there. But what is, see, ellipse and circle, when the length of the major axis and the length of the minor axis, when they coincide, then the ellipse becomes a circle, right? When A becomes B, then the ellipse becomes circle. So when A becomes B, then this will be 2 times A square and square root of 2 times A square And what is the period 2 pi r? So I think you are right. So it will be a square plus b square by 2 here. Okay, so 2 pi root of a square plus b square by 2. So when a and b both are the same, then it becomes 2 pi r square. When a is equal to b is equal to r, right? This is when a is equal to b is equal to r. When major axis and minor axis, they have the same length, then this is square root, right? R square plus r square by 2, 2r square by 2, square root of r square is r. So this is correct. This formula is correct. When a equal to b equal to r, your area is nothing but pi r square, right? So this is the same as this, right? And I want to check whether area of the ellipse and area of the circle, which one is the larger. So perimeter of the ellipse and perimeter of the circle, they are the same. Perimeter of the ellipse and perimeter of the circle, they are the same. Then I want to check whether area of the ellipse is larger than area of the...
Ma'am, but I have a question.
Sorry, I could not hear you, Tanmay. Could you repeat what you asked? Yes, Tanmay. Could you repeat your question?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question.
Yes.
Radius of an ellipse can range. Yes, ma'am.
Could you type it because we can't hear?
Radius of ellipse
Tanmay, you type it because I can't type.
differs from point to point. So how can we calculate
No. See, sorry. Let me.
pi square?
See, for an ellipse, there is no radius. For an ellipse, we say major axis and minor axis. Okay. But when the length of the major axis and the length of the minor axis, they become equal, then your ellipse becomes a circle. When for an ellipse, the length of the major axis and the length of the minor axis, when they become equal,
Okay,
then the
ma'am.
becomes a circle. That's what I meant. And when I say, and we checked on Google the perimeter of an ellipse, right? And we have the same thread for making the ellipse and for making the circle. So suppose,
Okay, ma'am.
so the perimeter on both the sides are the same. Now I am comparing the area, whether the area of the ellipse is larger or the area of the circle is larger. So we have to check whether pi r square is larger than pi ab. Okay, so we now have a relation between r and a and b, right? We have a relation between r and a and b. So we know that 2 pi r is the same as 2 pi times root of a square plus b square by 2. This we know. 2 pi r is the same as 2 pi times root of a square plus b by 2. So let me cancel 2 pi. So I get that r is the same as root of a square by a square plus b square by 2. That means r square is a square plus b square by 2, right? I know that r square is a square plus b square by 2. So that means pi r square will be pi times a square plus b square by 2, right? And here I have pi times ab. So here I have pi times ab, and here I have pi times a square plus b square by 2. I want to compare the two values. Since pi is common, I can ignore pi, right? And now whether is ab larger than a square plus b square by 2 or a square plus b square by 2 is larger than ab? Which one is larger?
Ma'am, a square plus b square by 2 is larger.
Very good. So this is larger, strictly larger. When a is not equal to b, it is strictly larger. But when a is equal to b, the value is exactly the same, right? When a is equal to b, that is when the ellipse will become a circle. See, when a is equal to b, the left hand side is a square. And what is the right hand side? It is a square plus a square by 2, which is also a square. So when a is equal to b, both the values are the same. But when A is not equal to B, this is strictly larger than this. That means the area of the circle is larger, strictly larger than the area of the ellipse. Even though we made the circle and the ellipse with the same length thread. So circle is better than ellipse, circle is better than square, circle is better than rectangle, right? But is circle better than any other shape? The question still remains.
My circle, I think, is better than hexagon also.
Why do you think so?
Ma'am, as rectangle and square have sides, and hexagon also has sides, so the circle encloses a larger area than other shapes.
See, what your intuition is correct. Okay, and I will see why I like to pose this question to all the young school children is because it looks like an easy question, but it is not easy. If I could show you my other slides, you will know that this problem is not easy to prove. That circle is better than any other shape. There were many great mathematicians whose names we swear by. They are treated as gods of mathematics. They tried proving this for many years, but most of them failed in proving this. All of them thought, like all of
Ma'am.
you are thinking, like many of you are thinking that circle will be the best shape. All those mathematicians intuitively they thought circle is the best shape, but neither of them could come up with the right and complete proof. Many great mathematicians could not come up, but some mathematician who was not as well known and as good as the other mathematicians eventually proved this. Okay, Shravari, you have a Rehan. Do you still want to say something, or you are done? The hand is raised.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the minor axis of ellipse and the diameter of the circle is equal, no? If they have the same.
And the ellipse is equal to circle, then the minor axis length and the diameter of the circle will be equal.
Okay.
And even the major axis will be the same as the diameter when this ellipse becomes a circle. Okay, because A will be equal to B will be equal to 2 times R. Okay, there was one more hand by Shravari and Tanmay. I will come to you in a minute. So Shravari, you had a question. I don't know whether it was Shravari or Sharvari. Yes, Tanmay. Wait, I'm just waiting for Sharvari to reply. If she is not around, maybe Tanmay, you can speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, tell me.
Yes, ma'am. If the major axis and the minor axis of the ellipse is equal, it is a circle, right?
Yes.
So we are just comparing a circle with a circle. So the values should be same.
Yeah, so when the ellipse becomes the circle, the area will be maximum. But when the ellipse is not the circle, that means the A is different than B. When A is different than B, then ellipse is not circle. And that is when we are comparing.
I had a net fluctuation.
And I told you that when A is not equal to B, the right hand side will be strictly larger than the left hand side when A is not equal to B.
Ma'am, could you explain again? I had a net fluctuation.
So, see, the perimeter of the ellipse has this formula, right? And the perimeter of a circle has this formula. Okay, and we are starting with the assumption that the ellipse and the circle, they have the same perimeter. Right? That is the assumption that we are starting with because our thread has the same length. Whether we make ellipse out of the thread or whether we make circle out of the thread that we started with is the same. So this length is same as this length, and because of which I will get some relation between R and A and B, because this is equal to this. So I can write R in terms of A and B. Because of this equality, I get that R square is same as A square plus B square by 2.
Yes.
Right? Now, this is the expression, the relation between R and A and B I use to compare the area of the circle and the area of the ellipse. But we know the formula for area of the circle. Formula for area of the circle is pi R square, right? And formula for area of ellipse is pi times A into B. Okay. Now we know R square is A square plus B square by 2. So I'm just, instead of R square, I'm writing A square plus B square by 2. I'm just replacing, substituting. Okay. So now my question is whether pi times AB is larger or pi times A square plus B square by 2 is larger. I'm asking this question.
A square plus B square upon 2 is larger one.
Yeah, so A square plus B square by 2, since that is larger than AB for all positive numbers AB, right? So this side is always larger than this side.
Okay, ma'am.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
The area of a circle is always strictly larger than the area of an ellipse.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So see why I took this example of a circle and an ellipse is because one student, and not one, more than one student, two students argued that in hexagon, in square, in rectangle, there are corners, there are vertices. And that's why circle is better than them. But ellipse doesn't have any vertex. Ellipse is also like smooth curve. Right? There are no corners, there are no sides. But still circle is better than ellipse. In fact, I will tell you, I challenge you to prove that using that thread, you make any shape which doesn't have any vertex or which doesn't have any side. Like an amoeba, you can make an amoeba like a shape, like a flower, which doesn't have any side, which doesn't have any corner, which doesn't have any vertices. You will still find that circle has larger area than that amoeba. Now proving this, as I have been telling you, is very, very, very challenging. And I would, if you are interested, we can discuss this further, but right now my time is limited. Tanmay, you have one more question? Maybe you can disable the hand. You have raised hand, Tanmay. And you are muted. Tanmay, do you have any other question? Maybe you don't. So let's see. So now, which quiz are you talking about? I don't know. So 1 second. So now, okay, so let me present another document now. Yeah, you will have to make me a co-host again because I was disconnected in between. That's why I'm not able to share. Yeah, the organizers will have to make me a co-host once again.
Yes, ma'am, we'll do it right away.
Sure, thanks. See, this is a very, very challenging question, and that's why I want the young minds to get stimulated and to become curious and try to see if you can prove whatever I am asking you to prove.
Ma'am, it's done.
Yeah, thank you very much. So see, this is what the line says, that the classical isoperimetric theorem asserts that in the Euclidean plane, that means on the graph paper, the solution is a circle. That means the area maximizer is a circle and it is unique. The solution is unique. That means other than circle, no other shape will have the maximum value. So if you have a thread of a fixed length, circle is the only shape which will maximize the area. No other shape will maximize the area. So there exists a solution to the isoperimetric problem and the solution is unique. That means this is the only solution. Okay. And this property of the circle can be expressed in the form of a mathematical inequality which is called an isoperimetric inequality. And this isoperimetric inequality says that on the graph paper, you draw any curve. So suppose C denote a curve which you draw on a graph paper. You measure the perimeter of this curve, that you can measure, right? You have a thread. The length of the thread will be your perimeter. So that is my L. And you can measure the area. You can measure the area enclosed by the graph paper, right? By counting the number of squares inside the thread. Inside the loop, you can count the area. So you can count the perimeter, you can count the area. You will always find that the perimeter square is always greater than or equal to 4 pi times area of the curve. Okay. L square is always greater than or equal to 4 pi times area. Always. Whether you make a square, the perimeter square of the square will be greater than or equal to 4 pi times area of the square. If you make a rectangle, the perimeter of the rectangle, you take it square, it will always be larger than or equal to 4 pi times area of the rectangle. If you take a circle, perimeter of the circle square will be greater than or equal to 4 pi times area of the circle. If you take an ellipse, check that the perimeter of the ellipse square is always greater than or equal to 4 pi times area of the ellipse. Okay. But when your curve is a circle, you will see that the left hand side will be exactly equal to the right hand side. For a circle, in this inequality becomes equality for a circle. That means perimeter square of a circle is always 4 pi times area of a circle. Because what is perimeter of a circle? Perimeter of a circle is 2 pi r. Right? Perimeter of a circle is 2 pi r. So what is perimeter square? L is 2 pi r. So what is perimeter square? It is 4 times pi square times r square, right? 4 times pi square times r square is perimeter square of the circle. What is area of the circle? Area of the circle is pi times r square. And what is 4 pi times a? 4 pi times a is 4 pi times pi r square, which is nothing but 4 times pi square times r square. This is also the same. This is also the same. So for a circle, L square is equal to 4 pi times a. For a circle,
Ma'am, your video is freezed.
Hi, sorry, the network connection was bad. So what I'm saying, I told you that for circle, L square is exactly equal to 4 pi times A. But for any other shape, L square is always strictly greater than 4 pi times A. Okay. So that is why we have this. But this also needs a proof that why L square is strictly greater than 4 pi A. It needs a proof. And that is why I say what I say that you need, I will just tell you that why, who are the mathematicians who try to prove. So it is, the research is on this from this Pappus of Alexandria, that is even in BC, like from 200 BC to 140 BC, Zenodorus started thinking about the problem that I mentioned. Okay, and the so much work was done. I don't, unfortunately my time is up, I don't have time to talk about this. Maybe if they organize a follow-up talk, I can talk about this. But let me tell you the names of the mathematicians who tried solving this, but neither of them could solve this. And those names are Euler, Bernoulli brothers, Gauss, Steiner, Weierstrass, Schwarz, Levy, Smith, and many others. They all believed that circle is the best shape. They all believed it, but they could not prove it. That is the importance of mathematical proof. Even if something that you see and it feels obvious to you.
Who discovered that?
Yeah, so it was discovered by two mathematicians. So Zenodorus was the very first one who proved it for polygons. Okay, and then there is this mathematician called Steiner, who continued, not Steiner, sorry, what was his name? Oh, 1 second now, I forgot. Yeah, so his name was, why is it not going to the next? Yeah, so using some existence, Steiner partially proved it, but not a complete proof. But there was a mathematician called Adler. So Adler gave a complete proof in 1882. So remember, when was the research started? It started by Zenodorus. This was in 200 BC. 200 BC, before Christ, to 1882. That long. So 1882 plus 200, that is like 2000 years. The research continued, right? And Adler proved this.
Ma'am?
Complete proof was given in 1882. Of course, slow progress was being made. Some progress was being made every time. And even the mathematicians who failed in proving this, all of them did contribute to the continuation of the research by giving some interesting ideas. Okay, so it's not that if you fail, does not mean your research is useless. Whatever time you spent is useless. They all, the moment you realize that this is the difficulty in proving, that difficulty gives you some idea, fruitful idea, that what doesn't work. See, something which doesn't work, an idea which doesn't work, is also a progress in the research. The idea which you had earlier, it did not work, is also considered as a research, that this will not work. And that also contributes to progress in the research. Okay, there was one question by somebody, I did not notice the name. Will you unmute yourself and ask again? One girl was asking something. I did not notice the name. Yes, Divya, tell me.
Hello, I'm just saying that can you just share this PPT?
Yeah, I will share the PPT, no problem. I will send it to the organizers.
Yeah, because I want to read it.
Sure. No, unfortunately, this time is limited, and this is a very, and also there are limitations because you do not understand all the mathematics that is needed to understand this, but at least the uniqueness part of the proof, even a school student can understand. Okay, using school geometry, like 8th, 9th standard geometry, they will be able to understand. I will share the file with the organizers and they will share it with you, and you will get to read the rest of the slides. Yes, Rehan, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. And when the Adler proved where are the calculations now?
Where is the calculation you mean? So he used something called approximating polygons. So what he proved, I will just tell you briefly. So we know that we know that square is better than rectangle. Okay, and we can prove similarly that square is better than any shape which has 4 sides. Okay, we should be able to prove this in not just 4. So suppose you take any shape which has n sides, where n is any integer. Okay, so suppose you take the collection of all the pentagons, like polygons with 5 sides. Okay, then we should be able to prove that the regular pentagon, by regular pentagon I mean the pentagon for which all the sides are equal and all the angles are also equal, that will be the regular pentagon. So what he proved, that among all the pentagons, the regular pentagon will maximize the area. Among all the pentagons with the same perimeter, the regular pentagon will maximize the area. He proved that among all the triangles with same perimeter, the equilateral triangle will maximize the area. He proved that among all the quadrilaterals having the same perimeter, the square will maximize the area. He proved that among all the hexagons with same perimeter, the regular hexagon will maximize the area. So
because the circle has got equal radius on all the sides, has got equal radius, that's why the circle is the...
This will be one of the reasons. This is like your intuition is correct. This will be the one of the very important reason why circle becomes the best choice. But the proof will not depend on our intuition. So what happens is, from square, if you increase the side of the square, you get a pentagon. If you increase the size of the pentagon, you get a number of sides from the pentagon, you get a hexagon. From hexagon, you get a heptagon, then octagon, then whatever the polygon with 9 sides means.
Nonagon.
So what?
Ma'am, 9 sides nonagon.
Very good. Thank you very much. I did not know this. So then maybe decagon, the 10 sides, etc., etc., etc. So suppose the number of side is small n, then you let the n go to infinity, right? Then the regular polygon with n sides, as your n goes to infinity, what will it become? As your n goes to number of sides become infinity. That means that the perimeter, the length of each side should go to 0, right?
Then it will become a circle.
Yes, so the regular polygon, you take a regular polygon, let me draw it on the, let me stop sharing and let me draw it on my screen. So you have a circle with the same, you have a triangle, equilateral triangle, then you have a square, then you have a pentagon, right? Then you have a hexagon, etc., etc. So as the number of sides go to infinity, what you will get? You will get a square. You will get a circle, sorry. Because as the number of sides is going to infinity, the number of corners are becoming 0. The number of vertices is becoming 0, right? And your regular, the equilateral triangle, square, regular pentagon, regular hexagon, etc., 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 it will eventually converge to a circle. And this follows from the fact that every regular polygon is a cyclic polygon. Like there will be a center of that polygon. For example, a regular hexagon can be inscribed in a circle like this, with the center of the hexagon same as the center of the circle. And I think from here it is not difficult to imagine. This is correct. So this should go here. They should all meet at the same point. because I did not draw a very right figure. It doesn't feel like, so this should go to the opposite one here, and this should go to the opposite one here. So they all meet at the same point, and this point is as the number of sides goes to infinity, you keep on increasing the number of sides. So it will be something like this. And the moment the number of sides will go to infinity, this hexagon will converge to this circle in the limit. Eventually, it will become this circle. The hexagon will become this circle with this center and this as the radius. Okay? And your regular equilateral triangle is, you know that it is inscribed in a circle, right? So as you increase the number of sides of the triangle, this triangle will become a square, etc., and it will converge to this particular circle. Okay? The circumcircle of the triangle. So as the sides go to infinity, the polygon, regular polygon, goes to circle. And since regular polygons are the best among all the shapes which have sides and corners, right? So any other shape you take, you can always approximate it by a polygon. You start with any shape, amoeba-like shape, you can always approximate it by a polygon. Like this. You can always approximate it by a polygon, which need not be regular, but you can always approximate it by a polygon. You take nearby points, join them by straight lines. So from an arbitrary shape, you get a polygon. Now I know that the regular polygon having the same perimeter as this polygon has larger area. So I will replace this polygon by the regular polygon having the same number of sides. That has a better area, and from the regular polygon, I can go to circle by taking the number of sides larger and larger and larger and larger. Okay, and when I take number of sides larger and larger, I am getting better and better approximation of the original shape that we started with. You understand? So this is what the approximating polygons argument means. I could not make it very, very precise, the complete proof, because of the constraint on time. I am already 15 minutes extra. I have already taken. I don't want to come in between you and your lunch. Okay. So yeah, you all must be hungry. So let's stop here. Those of you who are interested, we can have another meeting sometime whenever you feel like, and I can tell you more about this. But I just want to leave you hungry with this question in your mind to solve this yourself and try to see why so many great mathematicians could not give a complete proof of this. So it is something which, if you can solve it yourself, you will be a genius. I mean, you must be a genius if you can solve it, which so many great mathematicians, even after decades of work, could not prove. That's why I want to leave you with this thought. Yes, Rehan, one last question by you, and then I will hand it over to the organizers.
So, ma'am, it is like the idea of concentric circles. No, we start with a triangle, and then we end up with a circle, and both shapes have a same center, but the area is more.
Yes, they are constant with the same center. Yes, you are right.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, over to the organizers. I'm sorry about taking extra time, but the students are so curious and inquisitive and so much interested that I could not stop.
Definitely.
Yeah, there is still so much to tell them, and I just feel helpless. But yeah, we have to respect time.
Yes. What I could see is young minds gelling up with you, and I'm happy to see that students are not taking geometrical shapes just as a chapter called mensuration, जहाँ पे formulas रट लिया and then give us the values, we'll substitute it and solve. This session must have definitely given them a foresight of solving real-time problems with the help of these geometrical problems and the formula. So I'm sure students, you must have got this insight that it's not just about mugging up the formulas and substituting and getting an answer to get 2 marks out of something in the exam. But then yes, optimization is one thing which holds a position in the field of physics, where you talk about computer science, you talk about math, and maths becomes the base of understanding this optimization. So, ma'am, on behalf of the trust, we express our sincere gratitude to you for this session. And for most of the students for whom optimization must not be that clear, also, I'll tell you what I observed here is squares, circles, triangles, rectangles are not just shapes. Tomorrow you go on to do civil engineering, you'll go on to do mechanical engineering. Maths always forms the base of it, and this session will definitely prove to be a foothold for such thoughts. So, ma'am, as you rightly said, you're leaving them with some food for thought. Okay, and they'll definitely be hungry for it. And we will definitely connect with you for the forthcoming Inspire camps. And I hope you will definitely give your time also, ma'am, as
Sure.
today.
I'm looking forward. Yeah.
Yes,
I'll be
yes.
happy. I'll be happy to give.
Once again, thank you so much, ma'am, and
Thank
have a
you.
nice time.
Thanks to all the students, and feel free to write to me if you have any further questions. We will discuss. Yeah. Okay. Have a good day. Happy Sunday. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, students. So that was from Anisa, ma'am, and most of you all are waiting for the quizzes. We will have a small change in this. Some of you all must have attended the last Sunday lecture also, and even today we had two sessions. Next Sunday, again, there will be two speakers, Professor Chandrashil Bhagwat for maths and Professor Bhas Bapat for physics. Okay, and very interesting topics next Sunday, students. Attend next Sunday session as well. And towards the end of that session, because we are running short of some time, towards the end of that session, we'll be having this quiz on a bigger scale. Also, there will be a small examination on this held in your school. We'll be coming to your school with a piece of paper and with some set of questions. Certificates, awards, a lot of things are awaited, and you will definitely benefit from this, right? Yes. Yes, Soham, please.
So what about the last week's quiz? What happened to that?
Okay, Soham, what we did was I don't think you were there, because I asked three questions, one related to each session, and students answered it by raising their hands. So names of those students are noted down. We did not really type the questions, but I had asked it verbally myself. Which for this Sunday and next Sunday we'll be having next Sunday itself after 1:15. Okay, so Soham, you won't be missing out anything, because we'll be coming to your school with the exam paper as well. A small test of say 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or half an hour. You'll be getting the notification of it, and that will be the main thing, which will get you to the felicitation in the final stage. Right, Soham? So two more Sundays wherein the other scientists will be speaking to you. Stay tuned, make notes, think about their researches, Google more. Okay, know as per your capability. This may prove to be your field of interest in the near future. With this note, students, we rest today's session of Inspire Camp Day 2. And I also invite all of y'all and your friends for the next Sunday session by Professor Chandrashil Bhagwat in the first slot for maths and Professor Bhas Bapat in the second slot for physics. Okay, have a nice time, all of y'all. Feel free to connect with us in any form. All of y'all are there in the WhatsApp group, so you can find the admin number in the WhatsApp group. For any queries, you can call up Sumit sir. From the number, you receive your Zoom links and all. Okay. Have a nice time. We rest our session today. Thank you.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
So